time we did a lot of Christmas carols, but there's more Christmas carols, so have some more.
Scrooge A Christmas Carol 2022. This is a TV version. It's 1 hour and 36 minutes. Directed by Stephen Donnelly and Luke Evans as Scrooge. I'm checking if there's any. I
don't think we know anyone in there.
Jonathan Pryce as Jacob Marley. Book accuracy 7.5.
Yes. First, let's start with you have seen this.
So you tell me.
Last year we saw this
it's
over Christmas. Yeah,
it just came out.
Yeah, and I just found it, and I saw it.
I vaguely remember
there
sitting
she
down.
goes.
I vaguely,
lights goes.
Yes, the lights are coming on in the back of my mind there.
And the interesting thing when we were watching it, it's a 3D animation musical, very extremely colorful to the point is, oh my god, I need some shades, kind of colorful. But okay, and it took like it's like 1 hour and
36. 136.
141 on my timer. It was. Yeah. It's for a 3D animation. It's long, and it's like 50 minutes in when they're starting to sing a song, and I'm going, I know that song. You know that song.
Oh, I remember that. And we're going, no, really?
Yeah, and then after that, the songs come kicking fast.
It's a remake of the Albert Finney. Scrooge, 1970.
Yeah, and look at the name of the screenplay writer, who's also is the music writer of the original one, and unfortunately, the thing opens actually with a dedication.
I remember this. Yes, so the Jeremy Holland, music by Jeremy Holland, and it was a passion project, clearly, because they wanted to do an animated version of the old one. Yeah. And he wanted to write new score for it as well, but he died.
No, they got the original Leslie. I'm not sure how to pronounce that.
Bricus,
the original writer who did the screenplay and the music, which is an unusual combination. Usually, it's you either do the music or you do the screenplay of the original.
That was it, yeah.
And they wanted him. They wanted to do a project, and then in the middle of the project, Leslie died. And so there's a big notice on the beginning of this that he died. Yeah. So,
yeah, rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Yeah.
Book accuracy 7.5.
It's the same as the other one, really.
Yeah.
And they do have the scene of him falling into the.
Basically, they roughly follow the same script. They don't do much. Extra other than adding a dog, which was one of those things. They think that a lot of people, and including the Barbie animation, thinks that you have to cute it up. The Disney version has exactly the same problem, that you need to cute it up somehow because you're doing.
Disney always needs to cute it up. That's for sure.
So you have the singing mice, which they were not singing in the Disney version, but there were mice where there shouldn't have been, and there's a dog here where there shouldn't have been, and particularly this dog, I was going. So the Scrooge has the dog because it used to be Marley's dog, and then when Marley died, he took on the dog. Of course, people who have dogs know that dog life is about 12 years. So if 7 years ago Marley died, so this dog was still a pup, nearly a pup, because now he's a full-grown dog and not an old dog. So I don't see any world in which a Scrooge that was just walked away from Marley's body as it fell dead would pick up the dog and take it with him. Or Marley wouldn't have a dog at all, because I don't think these people can love. They cannot love. That is the problem with Scrooge, is he cannot love, and he
certainly with Marley.
Yes. And the book tries to make happen that even though he cannot love, he can learn to love.
I think the book is trying to say is life is better when you do love, and this is what love looks like.
Yeah, but if
he absolutely doesn't understand love, and it has never been taught to him, and he doesn't have any sort of intrinsic love or need for love inside himself, then you're gonna have to show him the motions of love and why that feels better.
If he has no intrinsic need inside him for love, then showing him love or doing any of this is not going to do anything. Because if you actually have no need of love, and there are people who, the sociopath and psychopaths, they don't need this.
But also hermits,
and it wouldn't
you don't
hurt.
even have to be a sociopath or a psychopath. You can just be a hermit who is basically, just not interested.
Okay, fair enough. But if you're a psychopath or a sociopath, then this therapy, because this is what the whole thing is a therapy.
Yes!
It wouldn't work on everyone. It would only work on a certain type of person. And I do understand that somebody like Dickens, if 1843, is not going to know that much. I understand that. But back to this one. It had some good... One of the things that I liked it better against the Disney 3D animation is that it is very pretty. At least the best. Yeah. It has good music. It is pretty. The songing is maybe even overproduced, which is another thing altogether. It is.
Well, the Albert Finney one was almost overproduced as well.
No, not in this way. It's this. Everyone, I know. Disparaging to the chap who did Luke Evans, who did the singing, but he's so West End stage singing, musical singing, that he's overpolished for the role. Albert Finney was better because Albert Finney nearly couldn't sing. He did it. He sang, but he sang in a way in a person who doesn't sing very often because. Like the smiling, he doesn't sing or smile, and this guy, he just sings, and it goes for everyone. Everybody sings like full West End singing, and it's overproduced for this.
Yeah,
not disparaging these people because the singing is beautiful.
Yeah,
it's just not the right
choice.
Way. It's choice.
And if Scrooge had that much oomph and vigor about him.
Oh, he's such
then he might not have been in this situation to start with.
He is the most handsomest Scrooge you ever saw. He's a stately gentleman. He's by far the handsomest Scrooge ever. And on all those points it doesn't work. However, it makes it much nicer on the eyes, whereas the Disney Scrooge was so ugly it hurt my eyes.
Yes, and then
I
you
prefer this
watching, which I did.
I prefer this.
So let me just say that the Barbie one was pretty. Everyone in that thing was pretty. But yeah, I remember enjoying the movie, but I remember also being like
mystified,
overwhelmed by suddenly realizing this is a remake of. The 1970 Albert Finney Scrooge, and I think there's a space in this world for an animated Scrooge musical. Yeah.
Yes. Commendation for Jonathan Pryce playing Marley. He was wonderful. The performances as such were very enjoyable. They put in some odd things because it is now so long ago. 1843 is a heck of a long time ago. So they put in some elements of some of the other Dickens stories. They gave one of the problems that I see in other movies versions as well is what do you do with his youth, because it's so sad, but also it's so boring. And this one said it's too boring for me. So what they did was they gave David Copperfield's backstory to young Scrooge. So he gets into, I believe it was a bootblack factory, but it's off because his father got into debtor's prison. This is what actually happened to Dickens, and Dickens put it into the David Copperfield story. So that's where it comes from, and I can understand that it's not out of place here. But for book accuracy, I'm gonna give it a 7.5, and then altogether, I'm gonna give it 7 minus, because they waste a lot of time with a lot of stuff. That's not a 7 minus for the singing. The singing was very nice,
and the music was good.
And the music was great,
obviously.
Yes. So,
all right.
This one's on YouTube, 1954 American TV version, and we actually started playing it on Christmas, but then people walked in with food and then we stopped. We actually played the best scene.
Okay.
Frederick Marsh as Ebenezer.
Basil Rathbone as Jacob Marley.
Yes. And basically, if you're going to watch it, it's on YouTube. Okay, let's start with the bad stuff first.
Yep.
I think it's like 51 minutes altogether. Yes, 51 minutes. They realized straight up, we ain't got no time for this.
Yep.
We don't got no time.
51 minutes is just not enough for the full version.
And they realized that we ain't got not enough English accents to people this. So they basically, Frederick Marsh and Basil Rathbone are the only Brits in this thing. Because this is Hollywood. This is filmed on the back a lot of Hollywood. But what do we have? We have great singers. So they have a group, which may actually be a existing group of singers who can also do carols. Singers.
Could be a choir.
Could be a small choir. And something exists. People who sing together. A flutist and a young singer, who then later, of course, doubles as Tiny Tim. Is one of the older Tiny Tims, because I think he's fully 15. But it's okay. It doesn't matter. They realize they don't have any time for this. Yeah. So what they do is they sing some lovely songs and they do some scenes. And that's basically it. So they skip almost everything. What is there? I'm going to give a book accuracy of 7.5, but they leave half of it on the table because they had got no time. What they do realize is they have Frederick Marsh and Basil Rathbone, so they're going to do a great Scrooge and Marley scene, the ghost scene, and that's what we watched.
Yeah, and it actually has the tiles.
Yes, it did have the tiles.
The tiles are in the book, and for Dutch people, like having tiles, and there are Dutch tiles in this one. Is it this one or one of the color ones? This is black and white.
I think they don't get to see much of these tiles here, but the tiles that's in the book. When we were watching another version, which was doing really accurately, and then all of a sudden there were Dutch tiles in the hearth, and I was going, oh, we've seen this before on British things. They stick Dutch tiles were higgledy-piggledy everywhere, and I'm going, and then I reread the book, and damn, they're there. He actually, that's just before Marley walks in, he is actually hallucinating the doorknob and some of the spooky sounds, and he is hallucinating because these Dutch tiles, these are I'll show one, these delft blue tiles, they usually have depictions of either everyday scenes or, in this case, biblical scenes. In the book it says it was biblical scenes, and then he was starting to hallucinate stuff into them, and which is great for film. I mean, you just take the book and stick it on into celluloid, and it's a great movie just as is. It is so filmic. And even this version, obviously I read the book. This is why it gets a book accuracy of 7.5, because they read the book and they made conscious choices. This is what we're going to leave in, and this is what we need to take out because we don't have any time. Tiles are a great way to see if they've read the book.
Yeah, even the Albert Finney one does not have the tiles, and that's a UK production, and it's actually quite normal for people to have tiles in your hearth. Your open fire, which kind of doubles for also a cooking station, because it keeps the heat. It holds the heat.
Yeah, and the glaze makes it easy to clean, because if you're cooking food where you're also burning heat, you want to clean it once in a while. because otherwise bad things happen.
Quite often, yeah. Well, it's all soot, so you can't die from it. But
No, but it will fall in your food, and if it's all half splashed,
there might be food splatters. Yeah,
exactly.
So you want to be able to clean properly, and that's tiles.
But they do special effects in this Scrooge and Marley scene. There's a special effect, and then there's practical effects. Great makeup. 454 on television. I enjoyed them, but basically that scene is the best thing. That and the singers, all the rest is kind of okay. So I gave it a
7+.
7+ altogether. Next.
I came literally last minute, like as in before walking through the door today, I came across an accessible gender flip one. Okay, the Barbie was a gender flip, but this is a real live action one, and it is a Hallmark version, and it's called A Carol Christmas. So I don't have all the deets available, but I believe it's 2002-ish. I watched it on YouTube, so it's available there without any interruptions or difficulties. And it is with Tori Spelling as Scrooge. She is called Carol. She's not called Scrooge. They could have given her the last name Scrooge.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a proper version. It's of course an AU, so it falls into our other category, as in it is not. We're not doing the book. We're doing an AU, an alternate reality version.
No. So
because the moment you gender flip it, it's going to be alternate reality. But the Barbie one put it in the day and age. This one is modern day, and other than that, the story is actually fairly close to the Barbie version, because it's she and there's an auntie that has pushed her to go into show business. And the auntie turns out quite evil. Spoilers. Turns out
somebody has to be evil.
Yes, and has pushed her, and throughout. The ghosts are excellent. The actor, who will have his name here, who plays the Ghost of Christmas Past, is. We'll have to show him here because I don't know all the names and the titles of the show he was in, but it was the young black boy in that show with the young black boy.
Oh, yes.
Yes. So he's
different strokes.
Okay.
It was never on here, so we have
no.
It's not true. It was on here, but it was a long time ago. So, and then don't repeat it.
Yeah. But so he's there, and he's doing a good job taking her around the past. There's an assistant. There's actually, I believe, they have filled in all the roles, because his assistant is the Cratchit character. Of course, everyone's female. There's a love interest who's male. It's Bella, but not called Bella in this thing, and it's a dude, and he's a very nice dude. So he goes along with her throughout that past stuff quite a long way, just like Bella did. But Bella isn't involved at all in Scrooge's work, because it's completely separated life. Whereas in this one, he actually works on the sets that she works on. And so he's far more. He's not involved in her work, but he is very accessible to it.
Right.
And then at some point he just says, "Okay, I've now tried everything. I'm walking away from you." And that's where the auntie goes, and nose to the grindstone, keep on going. And that's what happened in the Barbie one as well. Nose to the grindstone. You're working for this. Your better life will come later. That's what you're working for.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe something that Marley, the original Marley, would have done as well. Except the book doesn't go into that. But he would. One of the pushing forces of Scrooge's life altogether must have been Marley.
Yeah.
Because I don't think he would have done it all by himself and then be redeemable. He must have been pushed and shoved about emotionally and that way.
Yeah.
You know?
Stomped down by the family affairs and the isolation first, then heartbroken because of the sister, and then you get a Marley that just says, but if you go over here, life will be great. We'll have lots of gold.
Yeah, and you know what? Money makes sense. Nothing else does. Money makes sense.
It does, yeah, because everything has been a valley of tears for him up till that point. So why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And gold doesn't leave you.
Yeah.
You know?
And he makes sure the gold doesn't leave him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do anything with it. That's also a thing. Yeah. He neglects himself as well.
Yeah, and that's just madness. Anyway, this one, book accuracy. What do you think? Do they do all the important elements?
They do all the elements. So you have all the three spirits. The Ghost of Christmas Present is played by William Shatner. And you know, there's this point where he says, "Here's my sleeve. Touch my sleeve, and we go flying." So William Shatner has to say that to Tori Spelling. So they gave him like the underside of a Santa outfit, which is the pants that are too large with the big suspenders. So he just looks at her sheepishly and said, he pulls the suspender out and go, touch my clothing. Because pretty much any other way is icky. And he just, look at his face, it's like, okay, yeah, here we go again. I can't help it. This is the way we travel. Sorry. And then they go, whoosh. It's so well done. Everyone's a character. It's beautiful. And, she saves the Cratchit family. Yeah. And there's
it's got to end well, of course. Yeah. Final score for it. What do you give it?
I really, really enjoyed it. And they didn't waste any time as well, because you only have an hour and a half with TV movies. Yeah. So you have to keep going, and there's a lot to get through, and they did. And she gets the guy, which is great. She gets Bella. Bello?
Bello.
She gets Bello. So your average 7.5 for an AU, because I think there's actually, and there are more AUs out there. There's a lot more gender flips now in the last...
I find that in any version, and we have a few more to go to, but in any version, I was worried when I started the project that they would mess up the story, and nobody does. Everybody gets the story. Everybody gets the point that, we need to make these few points to make this work. Otherwise, people are going to be annoyed. But they do that. Yeah. They never mess that up. That is something. And I like that. And that's
me too.
Maybe a testament to the original, that it's so clearly good, and you why mess with perfection kind of deal.
Yeah. It's got story beats, and it's got cause and consequence, and it's got motivation, and it's got backstory,
and
it's got
great
everything.
Core story that is sort of.
Can we segue from this to like our little bonus thingy? That's the Family Ties episode.
Yes,
it's brief. We can't put that in the final score, obviously.
It went over there. Just a second. We sort of prepared on what we're going to do, and we realized that you have to... The things fall in different categories. One where they do straight up the story as in the right time, and etc. etc. Yeah. Then you have AUs, but then you also have where they take the plot and stick it into an existing franchise, like Family Ties or Quantum Leap. Or the Loki series.
But probably many more that you've seen that we've not seen.
Yeah.
I mean, the list is probably endless.
So we can't include everything there, but we rewatched the Family Ties episode because it happened to fall in our laps, and then we gave it a book accuracy of 6, again with the asterisk that it's going to be
Well,
AU.
I think this is a good example of you're always going to do a good job. Mm-hmm. You're always going to do the story.
Yes.
If you're sitting down to do the story, because you don't need to mess around with it. There was one that you just were talking about that they messed with the story. But you actually, if you have a short amount of time and you already have your characters prepared, as in it's a long-running show, and we know the characters, we know the setup, then you just need a plot, and this is a plot. It's literally lying in your hands right there.
Yeah.
And the Family Ties one shows you how simply you can actually perform the plot.
Yeah, for people who haven't watched Family Ties since 1989 when it went off air, it's a family of hippies with a mother, father, 2 daughters and 1 son. And everybody is either modern or a modern girl or a hippie, except for the son, who is a complete he's sort of he's a little suit guy.
Yeah, conservative money.
Yes.
He's the 1980s in a nutshell. Greed is good.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
and so the episode, which is actually a 2nd season episode, so it's fairly early in the series, and if you run into it, they're nice and young, and it's Michael J. Fox. For the people who didn't know, it's Michael J. Fox.
It is Michael J. Fox.
So they're doing the Scrooge story, but the Tiny Tim is actually the sister who has a cold, and if he doesn't do it right, she will not get cured. It's very silly, and the thing I didn't like about it, apart from the fact that it's too silly, it's just. The Family Ties was always a little silly. Mm-hmm. So that's fair. It's within the genre, it's correct. What I didn't like is that this is an intervention. The entire story is an intervention, always. Yeah. And so you make a change, whereas this is just an episode in a series, and Alex is not going to be changed.
And he's only changed for this episode, and that's a little disappointing. But the series did start in 1982, and they were not very good with continuity at that time. No. They would not do it that way now. But if that, I agree that is an issue because of the rest of the show. But if you see it within the episode itself, that I think what the stakes were a certain level, and they were addressed at that same level, and then the results are at that same level. Where with Scrooge himself, the stakes are much higher. Tiny Tim is going to die, and the intervention is also of that same kind of caliber.
Yes, but my problem with this in a modern entertainment context is that now this plot line has become an off-the-shelf plot line, and when we run into it again, or lots of other series have the same problem. When I ran into it again in Loki, the Loki series 2021, where they need to take a character who has been canonically ambiguous bad. They need to have him to be ambiguous good. And what they do very quickly in that first episode is just stick in this plot, because he is an alternative. It's complicated. He's an alternative version of himself, and the stuff that happened after, they have it in film already, so they can just show it. And that's basically what they do. They do a mini.
It becomes a clip show as well.
Yeah, it becomes a clip show, and it becomes a very quick insta plot. It becomes insta plot to get him from this character they can't use to a character they can use, because he now can be the hero of the show for a bit.
You have to get him off being a destructive force for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, and it's so
he
just
needs to have some...
get the plot off the shelf, and add water, add some good actors, it's always good, and then stir and serve. And that's one of the problems I have, because that is how it is in the Family Ties as well. It's very much, we need something to do right now, let's grab this. And a lot of the other entries are like that. Very
Quantum Leap wasn't, but we'll talk about
Quantum Leap. Quantum Leap is completely different in that respect, because it was always singular stories. But it is, and the danger is of overusing it. It's very close to becoming a bad trope, so that's a problem.
Well, I will give some other about the Loki, because I wasn't a faithful watcher of the entire movie franchise, And I'm a much more faithful watcher of TV shows,
He
quite
doesn't have
frankly.
he doesn't have a big role in the movie franchise.
Yeah, and it was over the course of 12 years or so. So or 10 years. To me, it was too slow to be invested in all of that. But that's I think I am a type of person that exists. Like, there's more of me out there. And so they bring me into this Loki series. First, you have to explain how bad was he, and then you have to take him through the motions of if he's all that bad. Now we've established that he's that bad with all the flashbacks or with all the clip shows stuff. We now have to psychotherapy him into actually becoming a decent or at least usable person for this intervention group, the TVA. So if he's going to remain the main character, to me it was a useful episode, and I didn't realize it was I understood the psychotherapy part of it, but I didn't realize when I was watching that episode that they were doing a Scrooge on him.
They were doing a Scrooge on him. And my objection is not my objection is that they're trying to do something that they use this plot to get something done that could not be done, because they're trying to retch a square peg in a round hole, and I understand, and then it's really it's because that's what the original plot a little bit accidentally also does, because like I said, Dickens cannot have properly understood the nature of a Scrooge, because he's too early, and it's he had no idea, and so he is also trying to ram a square peg in a round hole, but he has the excuse that he did it in 1843, and now you don't have the excuse anymore. So now that comes across as a little bit cheap.
Yeah, so the Quantum Leap episode is from approximately 1991, off the top of my head, and
I'll look it up, but yeah.
I did not just watch it before walking the door, because
you know it by heart.
I know the series very well, but we just literally decided to add it to the lineup after I walked into the door today. So in the Quantum Leap episode, they are dealing with a tyrannical, I will not name a very populist name these days, but that kind of real estate dude in the 1960s, and he is just he doesn't care about the mission that is on the first floor, or not the first floor, is on the downstairs of the building he wants to demolish, blah, 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 blah. So and he has no spirit for Christmas. So Sam, our time traveler, says to Al, our a hologram from the future who helps him out, he says, let's Scrooge him. And I like when this is a different way of doing it than the Family Ties did it.
Yes.
In Family Ties it just happens. Here they say, we know this exists, let's use this system.
And that is a lot smarter. I like that a lot better.
Yeah. It's one of people's favorite episodes. It's of course a favorite Christmas episode, because they have about 3 or 4 over the 5 seasons. It's I would agree with the score of an 8 minus 8-ish.
7.5 for book accuracy and an 8- for the overall thing.
The book accuracy is actually, given the amount of time that they have for this, because they first have to put it near end. The guy actually gets the girl, which is very unusual for a Scrooge to get the girl.
How was he young?
He was
younger.
young enough. Yeah. And that's
but
one of the reasons
in the AU ones, he if they're young enough, he can get the girl.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the reasons also why they managed to do it, and because Al was a hologram and he could dress up as Ghost of Christmas Future.
Yeah, that was
and
fun.
Scare the heebie-jeebies out. But without that, it wouldn't have worked. You really have to go all 3 stages, and they did go all 3 stages in this.
Yeah,
and it took some doing.
Yeah. It was a good episode.
It was very cleverly done. You can watch it over and over again and still spot new stuff, which is awesome. And that's one of the strengths of all these different Christmas Carol renditions is how are they going to do it this time, and what detail is going to pop out at me this time, because just every time I'm still realizing things.
Every version has some interesting element to it. I've not run into a single one that didn't have something.
Yeah.
We're not mentioning them, all of them, because some of them are complicated, but yeah.
Mm-hmm. We could talk for hours just about Scrooge.
Yes.
And Cratchit, and we will maybe at some point just plain do the book. But we're doing films.
We're doing films. Let's do one that I saw and that you didn't, which I ran into. It's 2018, so pretty damn new. Younger Scrooge. Scottish. He's in Scotland, in the lowlands of Scotland.
Yes.
Lovely vistas of lowland Scotland. In the snow and the drizzle and the cold. You need lots of hot chocolate to keep yourself warm for this one. It's cold. It's not icy cold. It's just wet cold. It's book accuracy 7.5. Modern version.
Oh, it's an alternate reality.
Yeah, it's alternate. Yes. He's young. His business is actually whiskey making. That's hence Scotland. I think some of the other characters are oddly very un-Scottish looking, like I would say Middle Eastern looking guys, and I have the distinct feeling that the main actor and these other people are the absolute makers of this. They produce this.
You think it's an independent production?
Yeah, oh yes. So this the Stewart Brennan who plays Scrooge is also the one who wrote it.
Right.
It is very often that you see something that is quintessentially British or quintessentially even some of the American stuff, like Superman, produced by people who by not Americans, and this is not British people who are in the ground on this, and it's.
Merchant and Ivory were also not British, and they did all the.
This version is very atmospheric. They do all the highlights. Like I said, book accuracy of 7. They do everything they need to do. It's a little bit on the scary side because it's in the dark and in Scotland. So we don't. I mean. I was almost afraid it was going to end badly at some point because it was almost over and he was driving on the road on the way to something. He was going, oh God.
Yeah, that's usually when people get killed.
Exactly, but he didn't. Spoiler, he didn't.
Right.
Overall score was a 7+. Not a waste of your time, certainly.
Oh,
so
that sounds like one I would like to put on my to-watch list.
Don't do it in the dark.
Oh, okay.
The scary bits, it's more atmospheric scary than actually scary. No scary beings or anything like that. It's just atmospheric stuff. Pretty sad. The main point of this one is that everybody leaves. Including Marley, almost everybody has a car accident and dies, like his parents, and he's foisted onto Uncle Fred. There is no nephew Fred; he's the Uncle Fred, but he's already. He wants his parents, and then finally he gets a friend in Marley. And Marley convinces him to move from big city to Scotland, and then Marley dies in a car accident. And he keeps being left alone. That's basically the theme of this one. He's just alone.
I think the loneliness is a very big theme in the original book, because the kid he's basically not been raised by loving parents until 14, and then he's immediately shoved into working life. So he's never been raised. By loving parents.
So he doesn't know.
And that's a lonely start.
Yes.
And then if he also didn't seem to be terribly good at making friends or keeping them.
And not everybody is. Maybe he's just an introvert. And then if nobody reaches out to him and he misses out on all the regular stuff, that's upsetting.
And he probably had good marks in school. And so you just keep on doing bookkeeping.
Yeah.
And that can end up to be an extremely lonely life.
This guy is a little bit more socialized than that. They make a couple of interesting choices, because this being a continuation of the 2000s Ross Kemp version, people have seen that a lot. It's been on TV a lot, so they've seen it, and they make a different choice about Tiny Tim. It's Big Tim. It is Bob Cratchit's husband, because Mrs. Bob Cratchit, who is a lady, works for Scrooge.
Oh, I was just going, do we finally have an LGBTQ bubble?
Lots different colors, yes, no bubble yet. Oh. Hopefully soon. But he's ill, and but they make sure that it's not the main part of the story, because NHS can't fix it, and therefore money can't fix it. Mm-hmm. So they make a different choice, but they didn't want to see another dying child, so fair enough.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty harsh, but understandable in the 2000 version.
Yeah, but they didn't want to do that again.
If the kid is that in such bad shape, then not even what Scrooge is going to do is going to help him.
Money's not going to help.
And that's modern day.
On a happier note, the music is by a chap called Roger Taylor, and for people who like music, that is one of the people from Queen. He is the drummer, and everyone in Queen is a great musician, and the music is really nice. The production value is nice, beautiful vistas, well acted. It's all nice. The only reason it gets a 7+ and not higher is because
it's an AU.
It's an AU.
Yeah.
So, yep, recommend it.
An episode I found, and you can find a sort of condensed version on YouTube, because that's the one I watched, is from Northern Exposure, and it's a Yom Kippur carol.
I don't think they carol at Yom Kippur.
Because Dr. Fleischman, which is arguably the protagonist of Northern Exposure, he's Jewish. That's his shtick to start with. That's one of the reasons he's there, actually. And there's clearly other stuff going on in the episode, which is chopped out for the condensed version on YouTube. So I can't speak to that, but his storyline is properly, he's bah humbugging. No, I don't know if he uses bah humbug, but he's doing that. He's sending his assistant, who is effectively a doctor's assistant, so she's not that low on the ladder. He's telling her that she shouldn't go home that day because, he's leaving him in a lurch and all of that. And she's like, okay, and goes, because this is Northern Exposure. People do things that are just, they do things because they do. And then, that all comes around that he finds out actually what she deals with at home, which doesn't get shown in the show at all.
No.
Because she is an indigenous person. And
it's Canadian, isn't it?
No, it's Alaska. It's the US.
Well, then it's Native American, whereas if you're Canadian, it's First Nation.
Yeah, but I think it's now called indigenous person. So whatever we're going to say, we're going to do it wrong.
Still, if you're Canadian, it's still called First Nation.
Yes, but this is America.
I just want to check.
I'm going to go with indigenous. If it's not right, I'll hear about it. So he finds out that she has stuff to deal with, and in this case, it's not children. It's taking care of grandma or something like that. And they do a clever thing. This is one of those where there's only one person that does all the ghosts, all the spirits, because you just don't have time.
You don't have time.
And they do all the backstory. They do in flashbacks really quickly on his television in his living room.
That's cool.
From the episodes that have been, and just the real shorthand is like, in that episode you were being a bastard to them. That episode you were being unfeeling to them, and it's because he is actually quite rough and unfeeling.
Yes, he is.
He's a good doctor, but for the rest, he's not that good of a human being.
No.
So that was dealt with really quickly Yeah, so they do all the elements of the Christmas past, Christmas present, Christmas future, and then he comes and he makes good on things.
Yay!
And it's in the line of it's much better than the Family Ties one.
It's very easy to be. I mean, no disparaging to Family Ties, but it wasn't the best. They're just opposite.
No, but it was. I was surprised how much they managed to squeeze in there and try it. So in this one, it's not like the Quantum Leap one where they say we know about A Christmas Carol, let's use it. This is truly he goes to sleep and ghosts appear or spirits appear. So it happens to him, but in Northern Exposure,
it's Northern Exposure.
Fairly par for the course. It fits in the show, and so everybody just takes it as they do because they always do, and it's great. And he makes good on stuff. And in this series, he does learn over time to be a better person.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
Book accuracy?
Yeah, they do the elements, but quickly.
7.5.
Yeah, or 7.
7.
Let's go 7.
And
then the score of the episode, the part that I have recently, because I did watch it way back when, but that's a long time ago.
I watched it too, long time ago.
That's the 90s, man.
Yeah.
That's too long ago.
We saw it when it was on.
So your normal 7.5. It's absolutely worth watching, but it is easy to find as well on YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. This is in the same style as Hallmark movies, but it turns out to be a TNT movie.
Okay, yeah.
Called Ebenezer from 1998.
I heard about the Ricky Schroeder one.
Yeah.
I've not seen it.
Jack Palance plays Ebenezer, and I looked up some of these Ebenezers, and he is the oldest one.
Oh.
He's 79 years old when he did this.
Oh.
Most of the Ebenezers that you find are about between 50 and 60. Michael Horton,
as young as 40.
Michael Horton is actually one of the older ones at 66 when he did it. And the youngest one, I think, is going to be Albert Finney at 34.
Oh, yeah. Well, we'll see if Henry Winkler...
Henry Winkler is going to be in that ballpark. But yes.
Yeah.
But as in Ebenezer, that the prime part of him is actually the older, because the Henry... No, yeah, but we'll come to the Henry Winkler one in a second. Here is just Jack Palance. He is nearly 80 years old. He's jumping around.
Wow.
It's actually a Western, because Jack Palance was absolutely a Western actor. He did a lot. He did a lot of movies, and his list is as long as your arm and then some. It's a Western version. It's on YouTube if you want to see it. It's an hour and a half. So it's TNT Network. I know nothing about TNT Network, but it's something like a Hallmark type network.
Yeah, they owned MGM for a while.
So they make.
I think they made their own TV movies.
So it's in the same ballpark as Hallmark of the similar era. This is what they made.
It shouldn't be like Hallmark style. It should just be TV movie.
It's just TV movie. Yes. I'm gonna call the book accuracy a little less 7. That they had to skip a lot because Western, and the plot line is significantly different. He is a card shark. He plays at poker and he cheats. And the Ricky Schroeder character is in the present, is somebody who gets welched out of his farm and then comes to a showdown. The ghosts, the ghosts of Christmas past is actually you call it Native American?
Indigenous person?
Indigenous person.
We're doing our best.
Indigenous person, a lady person. Very, very often they pick a lady to do the first one.
Yeah, for the first one, yeah.
Yeah. The second one is a military person on a horse. So Jack Palance gets to be on a horse as well, because they take a ride. They have a lot of scenery. They have a lot of extra. Maybe they had a good Western village available, and you go with what you have. And So they, because Marley is very British, they pick Marlowe as the partner's last, and it's like little thingies.
That's fun, yeah.
It's fun. Jack Palance is wonderful. He's great. Worth the price of admission. Actually, even though they have a book score of 7, I actually rate the entire thing a 7.5 because they put a lot in. Rick Schroeder is also fun. It's grown-up Ricky Schroeder. Everybody else is pretty good as well. Yep, this was a good one. And they got the assignment. They understand what the point is. This adapted to a Wild West scenario.
Yeah, I mean, it shows you can adapt this to anything.
Yes. As long as you know what to leave out and what to leave in.
Yes, you have to make the choices and preferably just don't leave stuff out. I think that's it's short enough. It's a novella.
Yeah.
It's not a long novel. It doesn't have a cast of thousands.
Yeah, and it's like less than 100 pages. So yeah.
Yes. So, An American Christmas Carol. It's
Last of the AUs.
Yes, a TV movie from 1979, and I did watch this back in the 90s or so when it was on television where I was. But we rewatched it
recently.
Very, very recently. And it's still good. I remembered it as being good. And surprising because I wasn't yet familiar with AUs and things like that at that time. But now it's like, oh, they did a good job. So Henry Winkler plays Benedict Slade. Slade being Scrooge. And then...
It's a 1930s AU in a town called Concord, which I do know is in the States somewhere. I don't know where it is. I'll look it up. Concord, it's the 1930s and they are doing Depression.
It's the Great Depression.
Depression era.
And that's correct because you've got the Dickensian era, which was an absolute disaster for the lower classes. And the Depression era was an absolute disaster for the lower classes. So, and the middle classes.
Yeah, it's a good choice. It's a good choice.
It is a proper choice. Because there's no point in putting it in wartime. Not that the US was much in this First World War. But there's no point putting it any earlier than that. And later, then you have economic boom after Second World War. So this is perfection as to
the thing about Scrooge is that he makes Scrooge in his bad aspect makes use of the misery of the world. He just squeezes it some more. If there's no misery in the world, the Scrooge couldn't really work. He would do.
But then you have the UK one where he just goes to the slums.
Yeah,
and
but there's misery there.
And this guy is in fact some loan shark-ish as well because he does do the buy on installment plan, not installment plan because then you go and you pay them, but to have the thing while you pay it off. And then they come and repossess it if they default on the payment.
It's not loan sharking. That's something else. Loan sharking is literally I give you money and I want it much more back.
So they have a clear backstory where he meets Marley and he has this idea. He even offers it to Fezziwig.
That was actually a modern idea at the time.
Yeah,
buying and getting the thing first and then paying it off. And that was a modern idea, but it is a trap. And this Scrooge, young Scrooge, saw this under Fezziwig, but Fezziwig didn't want to move anything. But then he meets Marley, who is interested in money grubbing, and then it is again a match made in hell together.
Yeah.
Because then they completely money grab, and this Marley is actually considerably older than the Scrooge because he's already in business many years when young Scrooge walks in the door, which makes more sense than that Marley goes earlier to die, and Slade is in the 19. They actually make a mistake in the time. This one makes a mistake about 10 years. They gain some 10 years in between somewhere, and
there should be 10 more years.
Yeah,
And
but you're running out of time. Okay,
whatever,
fair enough. Fair enough. It's not the only one who makes mistakes like that, but it's difficult. Yeah.
So what he gets out of this one, we do go through the whole motion and everything. And there's a radio that basically gets him the different...
it's a nice medium to make.
It's interestingly done. But the difference that this one does to all the other ones we've seen is he ends up with a kid. Because he takes on an apprentice, so it's not like he's adopting this child.
Yeah.
But he might as well, because this kid's gonna be... If not living with him, it's going to be living on his dime.
Because he is, even with the 10 years that they're getting wrong, he's still only 50. And in 50 in the 1930s, he has another potential 20 years of life ahead of him. He's unusual as most of these Scrooges are. He has more... he has 20 years ahead of him. So he has a second chance at some sort of life. So he takes on this apprentice who reminds himself very much of himself because he was started off as an apprentice. So he passes it on from Fezziwig actually. Fezziwig took him on as an apprentice and then he passes it on to the next kid, and that's the end of the story, which is beautiful.
Yeah.
I like this one. Yeah. The book accuracy we put at... I can't see it now.
7.5.
7.5, and they made true on that, so 7.5 altogether.
Final score. They clearly went in and they wanted to do a good job. You can see how much they put into the effort and.
When you go and see it, now you have a DVD, and I remember when I saw it first. Of course, it was on a PAL television, which is. It would have been in America on NTSC. His makeup job, because Henry Winkler is actually a young guy, so he plays the young guys. They do a nice job on the scenes when he was a young guy. But when he is an old guy, so the makeup is not the greatest, but it was never meant to be the greatest because it was meant to be shown on a great television. So you're going to have to look around that part.
Yeah.
And I do have to say a commendation about the sequence of when he was young. It's set just before and just during World War I, which was only in the States, wasn't that long, but they did okay for 1979. They did okay for 1979. Yeah, they did okay. Yes. They tried. They looked at some. They looked at some pictures. People were somewhat knowledgeable. Yes, I'm not disappointed.
Yeah, and it's good to the 1930s is a good era to say something about Dickensian about.
The one thing that I didn't like is that because they spent so much time on the past, because Henry Winkler then young, and that's what your vessel is basically.
They wanted to max that out.
Clearly. Yeah, they wanted meant that they had to do the present and the future. They had to run through that a little too fast. So that's it. Still works, but it's a little fast.
Well, at 1 hour 38 minutes, it's a little longer than most of these movies get.
It's a 2-hour movie on American television.
Yeah. But in reality, you only have 1 hour 38.
Yeah, that counts as a 2-hour movie in the States. Yeah. I know. Yeah. That's how it works. So, fair.
Yeah, so we liked it.
Fair.
Okay, we got A Christmas Carol from 1938. And it's 1 hour and 9 minutes. Reginald Owen plays Ebenezer Scrooge, and Gene Lockhart plays Bob Cratchit.
It doesn't really matter. Book accuracy was 7.5, and I gave it a final score of 7. I saw this on our stack. I saw this one early, and I didn't have our list of things to look out for yet, so that's why it's not filled out. Obviously, it wasn't that memorable. Is all I can say about that. It was. It does what is in the books, but no more than that.
Okay.
So, next. We're going to be very short about this.
Oh. So, The Muppet Christmas Carol, 1992. 1 hour and 25, but probably a little bit more. With the restored edition should be more than 1 hour 25. Directed Brian Henson. No, yeah, with the Muppets, obviously, and then Michael Caine as
And then we
Scrooge.
want to do a review about it, which so we were not going to talk about it
And
very
we
long
have
here.
Book accuracy 9+, because they did the book.
They did the book and then some, and final score is
9+.
9+. So we'll take this to a next review. It's going to go on
We
the side.
love the Muppet Christmas Carol.
We love it because we gave it a 9+.
So
And
good.
And then we're going to go, I think we're going to do this one first, because same thing applies.
All right, so we have an unusual thing here. It is the Dutch TV version of the Christmas Carol.
And it's called?
En it's called De wonderbaarlijke genezing van Ebenezer Scrooge.
Which actually translates as the wonderful cure or healing.
The wondrous
cure or healing of Ebenezer Scrooge.
Yeah.
Cure and healing are the same word.
But
in
I
Dutch.
think it means cure.
It's both.
They present it as a disease.
Yeah, but he gets healed. It's both. That's why they use that word. It's we're gonna talk. We're gonna do one about this as well.
There's no point in me saying which actors are in here.
No.
But book accuracy is definitely an 8.
Because of translation, it cannot be higher than an 8 because they don't have the right words. Translation.
Yes, it is a musical. Just like the Muppet Christmas Carol is a musical. And we rate it as a 9+.
And we're going to get its own review.
So yeah, so
oh yeah, it's the couple of things that I did want to say. The central theme of Muppet Christmas Carol, why it's on this list and why it's scoring so high, is that it gets the Christmas spirit so well. Next. Seriously.
And cheeses for us Mises.
And cheeses for us Mises. But even despite cheeses for us Mises,
I
it gets
find that for the Albert Finney one as well.
Yes.
It is a little bit like high-spirited.
Yes.
The whole movie is a bit more high-spirited than I'm interested in, but they do understand about Christmas.
And the Dutch one, apart from a whole bunch of things that makes it really good, which is going to be in the review, is that it realizes very strongly the mental disease that this is why it's called the wondrous healing / cure of Ebenezer Scrooge. They realize that he's mentally ill, and they say it and they do something with it, and they also very clearly show that Scrooge and Marley together are poison, are absolute poison to each other and to the world, and they don't varnish that at all, and that's I think Dickens would have liked that part of it.
Yeah.
So
they clearly had seen very over and over again the 1951 Alistair Sim one. Yeah. That seems to be that, and the book is probably the blueprint for this version.
Yes. Indeed. But we'll do a separate one for that at some point.
Yeah.
This is the last one in the list.
The last one. Well, okay, so we have A Christmas Carol, 1999, and
TV movie.
Those who know
On
are
YouTube.
starting to squeal at this point.
Yes.
Because we have Patrick Stewart as Ebenezer Scrooge,
Squeal, squeal.
Richard E. Grant as Bob Cratchit, Joel Grey as the Ghost of Christmas Past.
And the rest we don't know.
The rest we don't
Dominic
know.
West as Fred. That's
Okay, I
someone
don't know.
knows.
They were all good.
The
And then,
interesting
yes.
thing about this thing is a Hallmark production, but Patrick Stewart had done a one man show on stage for at least a year of A Christmas Carol for the couple of years before this. Straight out of Star Trek, he went to do that, and he went to Hallmark, or Hallmark came to him, I don't know, and then said, let's go do this. And he said, if we're going to do it, we're going to do it properly. We're going to do it accurately. So what we have for book accuracy?
Of 10-. We've not seen a 10 on this list so far. This is the 10.
This is the only 10. Yeah.
Yep.
we gave it a final score of 9.5 because the Richard E. Grant as
He's
Scottish.
so good. He's so good.
And what more uncomfortable to see is that the home life of the Cratchit, and when you look at Cratchit and his teeth are so bad.
Yeah, and her teeth were also bad. It's the only one where they actually put in bad teeth, and that would be how it was.
Yes, and the details, because the tiles are there, everything's there. Also all the story elements. One of the story elements we didn't even talk about, because when we first, apart from the Dutch one, because he had seen that, but the Dutch one, other story, we'd seen the Albert Finney one, and then we saw the Muppet Christmas Carol in 1992 when it was in the cinema. We actually saw it in cinema.
Black and white ones until we.
No, they weren't around. It's just the Albert Finney one and the few one, the ones I mentioned, and the Muppet Christmas Carol one has this. We call it now the spider scene because that's where we saw it first. That's why we keep calling it spider scene. Yeah. Is where the charwoman and the undertaker comes to sell. The housekeeper, charwoman, and the undertaker comes to sell their Scrooge's belongings to the pawnbroker, and most of the versions leave it out because it's pretty scary. It is scary stuff, but of course this one has it all. This has every single scene. It is the most complete scene.
Everything's in there.
Everything's in there. And
we like that. I mean, you've of the really good ones that we've been talking about, like the Alistair Sim one, Muppet Christmas Carol, and this one, is they not only hold on to the book and do it, but they do enough of it. They don't skip stuff that is necessary for telling the story.
Yeah, and they don't skip stuff that makes you uncomfortable. Because the spider scene is usually skipped because people find it uncomfortable. His youth is sometimes skipped because people find it uncomfortable. This one is in such a way is unvarnished. It's the unvarnished story. And then you have Patrick Stewart, who is a stately man, which is perfect for Ebenezer, because he is supposed to be a stately, proper gentleman. He's maybe a little bit too much of a gentleman, but he can play it. He can play it mean enough that it's not a problem. But he should be a representable gentleman, and he is. And then when he, at the end, when he goes through all the emotions, he can do that. Patrick Stewart is good enough to do that, and then he gets to the happy point, and that is also believable. You need this hard man to crack in places, crack him open like an egg, and that's it does that.
I would say in all the ones that we've discussed, there's practically none that I can name where the Scrooge character was miscast. They take a really good look at who they cast for Scrooge, and the rest of them. You know, most people can play. If you're a good actor, you can play any of these parts. But for Scrooge, you need a little bit more.
Yeah, if you're doing a Scrooge that is actually the actual Scrooge and not an AU, you need a certain look and a certain idea. The only one who was miscast was Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And you didn't see it.
No, that's why it didn't bother me.
You bowed out before you even showed up.
But yeah, that breaks the story like that.
It breaks the story.
Because it is so dependent on him. He's in practically every scene.
He's not in practice. He's in all the. He is the POV character.
Yeah. You hold on to him. He holds on to everything around him, and he has to get you through the story. In a way that is, that's why like a Sherlock Holmes is. In story, it is written by Watson.
Yeah.
So that Watson can look at Holmes doing strange things. And Watson can be all normal. Yeah. And he's our eyes. But this story, it is the character that has to go through all the transformation. That's the eyes through which we are seeing as well. So that's not an easy task to take on.
And I want to close off with the Dutch one. Reason why we keep going to that one because we did watch it in the end again, is that you need a brilliant actor with a brilliant idea, which is exactly what that other one is. Takes the
right
POV
energy
and the right energy for whatever choice you make for your Scrooge. You can make him be a grouch, then be like that. The Frederick March one from '54 was just the one good scene with Marley. There is this moment. He's first he's grouching at Fred about stuff, and then he says something, some of his lines, and then Frederick Marx makes Scrooge smile in the most horrific way. Perfect. That's the way to do it. I would love to have seen a complete one because this is just incomplete.
Yeah.
If it had done more scenes as Scrooge and how it would have properly, because this wasn't it. But you need to have the idea behind your Scrooge and then go with it. And then the one in the Dutch one where he has a mental illness, it's not overtly done. You have to watch it like 2 or 3 times to realize that's what's going on. That's why he's acting like that.
Yeah, he's a little bit ADHD in that one.
A little bit manic, ADHD.
Yeah, manic.
And then he starts something and he can't finish it, and it calls for Cratchit to finish it. And then when he does it like for the 2nd or 3rd time, you go, that's weird. He keeps starting stuff and not finishing. And it's so subtle.
And it gives more of an idea that this is actually a dysfunctional person.
Yes.
Even also in his job, because with Albert Finney one, he's actually quite functional. He's very good at his job, but he's also been doing it for 35 years straight. So the repetitiveness makes a person more able adapt. But nothing comes naturally to him, I don't think, and he's probably naturally quite messy.
And I think the Patrick Stewart version is more of there has been underneath the varnish of propriety, of stateliness, he finds there's lacking. He still can't make it work, but he looks like he should, but he can't. It's a different one.
In the 1984 one, they go to the future, and he's asking, I don't see myself sitting under the clock. At this time, I can see the time. I can see where I'm at, and I should be sitting under that clock. What's going on? And that shows like him, that could be an autistic spectrum or anything like that. It could be like
regularity needed.
Yes, like clockwork. There's not going to be a day, unless it's Christmas Day or Sunday, or that he's not going to be sitting under that clock at that particular time.
Yeah.
And that also means, and we know this, people didn't go on holiday. There was no such thing. In the American one, they need to send the kid all the way to Australia to have a
cure
operation or whatever it is. And so that whole concept of going somewhere, even in the 1930s, people didn't just go somewhere. I think that wasn't until after the Second World War in Western countries where people just started to rebuild, and now there's booming economy, and that means the middle classes can actually take a holiday out of country in Europe. Then maybe in the US it would be to another state, but you could go somewhere where the weather is better or whatever. They didn't do that. There was also when they talk when Cratchit asks for the day off for Christmas, it's like that's literally the one day off a year that he gets. There is no other day.
Everybody does have Sunday off.
Yeah, so you have a
6-day work, and
probably 10 hours a day.
Yeah, you're working from
because the 8-hour work week hadn't been invented yet. Nowhere near. From
9 to 7, you're probably working. Yes.
Yeah. So the working conditions were extreme.
Abysmal.
But another thing that I found from various looking at so many of them is that Cratchit's kids are of an age now that the oldest one is a girl and she's already working in service. So she's just coming home for Christmas because they let her go home.
But she could be working from 12 years old.
Yeah, Yeah, so she's probably 15. Or maybe she's 13. And the boy has just turned 12. So, and he's going to be sent to work next week because he doesn't need to go to school.
He's actually going to get an apprenticeship, which was a very good deal for him.
And in one or two of the versions, it said that Freddie is the one that got him the apprenticeship, and therefore the pay is quite good.
And that's made up for. That's not in the book.
And that Scrooge scoffs at how much they're going to be paying the little boy. But both these kids are going to bring money into the household because the kids making money, kids as in low teenagers or teenagers at all until you get married, they didn't have extra cash. It wasn't for them to spend on frivolities going to the mall and so forth. It is all part of the household, and that's what these kids say as well. So I'm glad I can now contribute to the household. The whole thing of youth culture didn't exist until the 1950s. And that's 100+ years from then.
One of the things that is... I understand why it's in there. In the 1970s one, there's a lot of toys and stuff, and that is not representative of the 1840s or 1860s. They're supposed to be 1860s, not a representative of the 1860s. There was just not that much going on. However, it is 1970s, and so they're up there. They are aware that they are in the 19 nows and not in the 18 thens. And so they wanted to show more the spirit of Christmas than the actual facts. In that film, it is more the spirit than the actual facts. That's why it's scoring on that sort of thing not very highly, but the spirit of it.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Do you want to rate them?
Okay.
Rank them. Ranking television episodes. Almost everything has pretty much the same rating, except for the Family Ties.
Family Ties is a bit on the low side.
I'm gonna the Loki is sort of it was a 7, except it's just not enough, so I'm taking it out.
Okay, so Family Ties from top to bottom, from bottom to top. Family Ties, then Northern Exposure.
No, Smurfs probably.
Then Family Ties, Smurfs, Northern Exposure, Quantum Leap at the top, and with an A-. Yes, we like Quantum Leap. When they do it right, you know, and that's the way to do it. You should
yes. Alternative versions. 3 alternative versions, and they all have the same ratings, so we'll have to think about it. So this is difficult to rate because I saw one and she saw one, and we only saw one of them together. I don't think you can rate this. It's not enough information.
Yeah, I mean they're all too different. You got the American Christmas Carol, that's the American one. You got the Ebenezer, that's the Canada one, modern day, and you got the Carol Christmas, that is the Hallmark gender flip, modern day.
So you can't rate that.
No. There are many more alternate reality versions out there that wasn't really our purpose. We just happened upon.
We didn't do Scrooge because we didn't have it, so otherwise we would have done it.
That would be a subject for some other time.
Yes. So we have here animated at the bottom of the list. Unfortunately, it's Disney, the 2009 Christmas Carol. Then with the 6-. Then with the 6+ is the 1969 A Christmas Carol animated. Then the 7- is 2022 Scrooge A Christmas Carol. Then Mickey and Mickey's Christmas Carol and Barbie Christmas Carol both have a 7. And since I watched the one and you watched the other, we can't compare because we haven't seen it. So those are at the top.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's not bad for animation.
That is not bad for animation.
Main movies, Not animated, not TV series related films.
Yeah,
Christmas Carol.
Or one-offs can be TV. One-off Christmas
can be
Carol.
TV movie. Yes.
Christmas Carol, but as it should be.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So.
But at 6 minus, it's not going to be happening, is it?
At the bottom, at the very bottom of the barrel.
With the 6 minus.
With the 6 minus.
BBC.
Just scrapes in the bottom. A Christmas Carol 2019 TV miniseries with Guy Pearce as Ebenezer Scrooge. More like
drop page.
Never mind. Then we're going up the ladder here. Old Scrooge, 1913. It's actually coming in quite nicely at 6.5. And then at a 7 minus, Scrooge or Marley's Ghost, 1901, the very first one.
It's 123 years old.
Wow.
123 years old.
It was fun watching it because it's just so old and they're just trying
and
it.
They get in 5 minutes they get a lot done.
Yeah. A Christmas Carol from 1938 is
so memorable. I forgot it instantly.
Yeah, there's not much written down here that I can help you with.
Yeah, that's exactly
It's the 38 one. A Christmas Carol 1954 with Frederick March as Ebenezer Scrooge at a 7 plus.
Because incomplete.
With all the music.
But incomplete.
Nice try. Then we have A Christmas Carol 2.
No, that's
probably
there were other Christmas carols coming out at that same year.
Okay, so A Christmas Carol from 2018. This is the David Izett one, written by and played by Stewart Brennan as Scrooge.
Scotland.
This is
the
Scottish one. This is 7 plus.
Yeah.
And then A Christmas Carol 2000. Directed by Catherine Morshead. I mean, I'm not unhappy to say that again. And that comes in at a 7.5.
That should have been in the other stack because it's an AU.
Oh, well, you make an edit. Oopsie. Next. A Christmas Carol. A Christmas Carol from 1984. This is the George C. Scott as Scrooge version.
Yeah, we're getting into the good ones. This is an 8 and higher.
Very good book accuracy and a score of 8.
Yep.
From this point upwards, highly recommended to watch any of these.
Any of these, yes.
It's just good stuff. It's a good ride. There's no problems. A Christmas Carol, also known as Scrooge in various countries, is the 1951 version with Alistair Sim. And that's the one that you see in all those movies, the black and white thing. So, a score of 8.5. Then we have the 1970 Scrooge with Albert Finney. This is the big, broad musical that just goes nuts all over the place. It's fantastic stuff. Yep. A nice long ride as well. It's one of the few ones that is close to 2 hours. 8.5. And A Christmas Carol 1977. This is a TV movie directed by Moira Armstrong and dramatized by Elaine Morgan.
Yeah, this is the Michael Horton one.
Right.
The 1 hour one.
And that's but quite good at 8.5.
8.5, yeah. You cram a lot into an hour.
Yeah. And then we have the wonderbaarlijke genezing van Ebenezer Scrooge. The Dutch TV version, which is an original musical for television, made for television, not made for the stage. And done by the KRO in 1979. And we rated at a 9 plus, and you're gonna have to take our word for it.
Yes.
And a few Dutchies out there that have seen it are probably nodding their heads. Yes, that was very good. Then we have, as the runner-up to the lead, we have the Muppet Christmas Carol from 1992. Brian Henson,
This is actually
Michael Caine.
This is a shared number 2 spot because it's sharing it with the Dutch one.
Oh, yes.
They both have a 9+.
Yeah. So this was the top 3, and number 1 prize winning of
Straight from outer space.
the prize is that we declare it so.
Yes.
That is the prize. Is
Straight from outer space.
yes.
Patrick Stewart.
Patrick Stewart in A Christmas Carol, 1999 TV movie. A score of 9.5 because getting a 10 is very, very difficult. We also have Richard E. Grant, Joel Grey, and just, a book accuracy of astonishing.
Yes.
Go watch any of them.
And
Do you agree? Do you disagree? Did we miss one that you wanted on there? I think it's going to be Scrooge that people are going to scream about that we didn't have that on there. Is this enough Scrooge movies for you? Would you like to have more Scrooge
I watched
movies?
10 Scrooge movies in like 3 days. It's enough. It's enough.
Yes.
I'm glad so many of them were actually pretty good to very good.
Yeah.
Because that helps a lot.
Yeah. And the casting was almost always excellent.
Yeah.
Certainly of the main roles.
Yeah, the choices made. Yeah, I'm happy. Very happy.
Very happy. And it doesn't get boring, which is unusual. Because stories do get boring.
Yep.
But this one does not
This
get
one
boring.
does not
and
get
that's
boring.
why they've been making for 122 years. They've been making Scrooge movies.
From a property that is 180 years old.
Yeah.
180 years.
Yeah, but there's also on Wikipedia there's lists of all the stage productions. that
Oh
have
my
been-
god.
And that's only the ones that have been listed because there will be a lot more, of course, out there. And we have, for instance, we have the Dutch one here,
It's not listed anywhere.
and there is no Wikipedia page on that one.
And no IMDb page.
So there's gonna be a German one, a French one, an Italian one. Actually, there is an Italian one listed on there. I was gonna look for that, but there's every country's gonna have their Scrooges. Their Christmas Carol. We say Scrooge easily, and the Dutch title has the healing or the cure of Ebenezer Scrooge in it, because A Christmas Carol does not translate. A Christmas Carol is a play on words, and it is a very specific English Anglophone thing.
It doesn't work. It almost doesn't work in modern English anyway, because people have forgotten what a carol is anyway.
Yeah, you'd even have to explain it to a lot of normally Anglophone people.
And this is one that will go into the Dutch one when you make a translation. What happens? That's going to be the one when we do about what happens when you make a translation and what happens.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That was fun.
And
So, Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas.
And keep the spirit of Christmas always, every day.
Otherwise, get boiled with your own. With
You might run into some chains, and
if you don't, you will get
Spirits.
boiled with your pudding and buried with a stake of holly through your heart.
really.
Arr. Yeah, that's the text.
Okay.
Anyway, that's my opinion.
And my opinion.
And we're sticking to it.